Take. Hello, welcome to this video about vision impaired shooting and the equipment you'll need to do it. In this particular video I intend to talk about the aiming devices and the air rifle. I figured that these two things are probably the most important aspects of the equipment, as no aiming device, you're probably not going to know where you're shooting, and no rifle, well, you're probably not going to do much shooting. So let's just get on and start discussing it. The first thing I'm going to discuss is the aiming device. There are two approved for international competitions. The VIS 500 from Echo Aims, which is this device fitted to the rifle, and the VIS Pro. As you can see, they're both different in their physical appearance, but they work in a fairly similar way. So they will look for the target by using an infrared LED, which is like this, a unit which is about 15 centimeters long, which you place about 6 centimeters below the target. And with this one, there's magnetic tape. So if your electronic target is steel framed, you can just stick it on. Otherwise, you could use something like double-sided tape, self-adhesive picture hooks or something like that. And it allows you to come into any shooting range, just stick it up. After you finish shooting, you can just take it away. So anyway, the aiming device is looking for that LED to work out the position of where you're aiming. And it then converts the position into an audio tone. And it tends to be, with most of the aiming devices, the closer you are to the target centre, the higher pitched sound it produces. And for those of you that are maybe a bit more thinking about this, you may think, well, if it's just telling me the distance to the centre, how do I know the direction? That's a good point. These don't actually tell you direction. You have to work that out by whether you're getting closer or further away from the target centre. So with those, the audio tone, you would be listening to it through earphones so that you won't disturb any other shooter in the shooting range. Particularly important at a shooting competition, but possibly also quite a good thing to do at your shooting club, as you don't really want to disturb all your club members. Okay, so there are some differences, as I said, between these devices. So with the VIS Pro, it's a shorter device, it's lighter, it's made out of plastic, which probably accounts for its weight, but you will have noticed it's got this bit of cable hanging off the side. The VIS Pro actually needs an external power source, so it's got a USB connector, so you could plug it into a computer, or you could just use a USB battery or USB mains charger. But that is something you will need to consider if you are looking at getting a VIS Pro, is where you're going to fit the external power supply, because if it's a battery, you'll need to attach that to the rifle somehow. Also with the VIS Pro, all the controls are on the back. There's a number of push buttons, and there's also some rotary dials. One of the rotary dials is a volume control, the one between all the arrow keys, and the arrow keys are from doing your sighting adjustment. So it's purely an electronic sighting adjustment on it for correcting where your shots are going. So if all your shots go to the left, then you could push the right arrow a few times to move them over to the right a little. And then the other buttons are for making some adjustments to the tone you hear. Things like the size of the zone that tells you you're in the middle, or the rotary dials are for changing the pitch of the sound. So there's quite a lot of adjustment on that. And coming back to its physical shape, you can see the mounting clamp runs almost the entire length of the device, which means that you can get it closer to loading ports without any interference of either you reaching in, or if the mechanism comes straight up, it hitting that. And in fact I make use of that on an air pistol, which also is helped by the weight of it. Oh, and I forgot that on the side here you've got the headphone output socket on the right hand side. So that's probably the VS Pro mostly explained. So now coming to the Echo Aim's VIS 500. It's this device fitted to the air rifle. So physically it's a lot longer, but the mounting clamp is actually a lot shorter, and it's actually a lot slimmer as well. So that may be a benefit, or because of the length of the device that sticks forward of that clamp, as you can see, it covers the top of my loading port, so when I'm trying to load I've got to reach in underneath it. Either that, or I'd have to mount the actual device on the bit of rail in front of the loading port, but then it's a long way to reach the actual aiming device. The adjusters on the VIS 500 are rotary mechanical adjusters, where it's physically moving the rear end of the aiming device about, and then the headphone socket is actually at the top near the front end, up there. Also, you can't see this in the video, but the Echo Aim's VIS 500 is actually a bit heavier than the VIS Pro. Now both of these devices can be connected to a computer, and there is training software for both of them which will enable you to do some dry fire training without pellets, and get some feedback on how your shooting is going. Now personally I would say that the software with the VIS Pro is better if you're totally reliant on the speech output from the software. Unfortunately the Echo Aim software will only tell you a score, whereas the VS Pro, it will tell you other things. It tells you the direction, it allows you actually to review different shots that you've done in the session, it will give you a total score, so it gives you a lot more information. So on these though, I would say if you can get to try one before you actually buy one, I really would recommend that, because just watching videos and hearing the pros and cons may not be enough, because the sounds are different. Some people like the sound of one, some people like the sound of the other, and there are advantages and disadvantages to both, and you've just got to find out which works best for you. Now, while it's not quite the aiming device, but related to it is the volume control, and as I said, on the VS Pro there is actually a built-in volume control, but on the Echo Aims there isn't, although they do supply you with a little inline volume control that you plug into it, and that is okay, but I prefer to use an inline headphone amplifier which has digital push button controls. This gives me much more precise control of the volume, and it remembers it, and is less likely to be changed within my bags, because like a little analog one, you stick it in your bag, the wheel gets knocked, and you pull it out next time and your volume is something totally different to where you had it the previous time. So personally I'd recommend the digital volume control, and also this particular headphone amplifier has two headphone outputs, which enables in training for the assistant to plug in a pair of earphones to hear what you're hearing, which can be a useful thing while you're training. Okay, I'll now discuss the actual rifle. I hope that maybe you will have seen a rifle at some point. Maybe not necessarily an air rifle, but you've seen a rifle enough to just know the basic shape of it. I'll just give you a quick explanation of it and some of the technical names. So at the front end, you've got the barrel where the pellets will be shot out of, and then as you work back, underneath that you've got a cylinder, which is the air cylinder. I should have explained, we are talking about target air rifle, so it does need an air source. There were some older spring air rifles where it was actually powered by a spring. Those, they tend to be older, and I don't think they're so common within target air rifle shooting nowadays, but you may still come across one. And then anyway, as you work further back, you'll get to the main body of the rifle, the stock. On this particular one, it's aluminium. Some of them it may be wood. And an important feature to look for is that underneath it has a accessory rail, a slot where you can slide in different attachments. At the moment I've got a hand stop for the prone. I will explain more about the hand stop in the prone video. For standing, you may actually have a shelf that you can use to help elevate the rifle a little bit. So that accessory rail is a pretty useful thing. Anyway, as you work further back, you get near the loading port, and on this rifle, just in front of it, there is actually a bit of rail for mounting an aiming device. Some rifles may not have this. It's not necessary, as you can see on this one, I'm not actually using that bit of rail, so it's not necessary to have it, but you do need a bit of rail either in front or behind, because you will need somewhere to fit it. Then behind that bit of rail we actually have the loading port and the loading mechanism. On this one, it's a lever that comes down. Some it may be a lever that comes out to the side, or it may come up, or some is actually a sliding mechanism. It will differ depending on the rifle you've got. And then underneath you will get back to the trigger for actually firing the shot, and the pistol grip where your hand that's going to operate the trigger will be resting. And then as you work further back, there's a bit of rail just behind the loading port, and I've got my aiming device attached to that one. And then coming further back, we've got the butt of the rifle, which has on top a piece of wood for resting your head, the cheek piece this is. And we then come right to the very back end where you've got the butt plate, which is the part that goes in your shoulder. And on this rifle, you probably can see there's a lot of adjustments. The cheek piece we can lift up and down. The butt plate we can move in and out, so we can change the length of the rifle. We can even change the shape of the butt plate. We can change the angle of it. With this rifle, there's almost, you name it, it can be adjusted. It's like a Meccano set, I would say. And that possibly brings me on to, if you are looking at buying a rifle, what do you actually need to be looking for in it? Do you need all these adjustments? They're useful, but they do add to the price of it. And some of the cheaper ones aimed at shooting clubs are actually the same mechanism inside. It's just that the stock is a lot less adjustable. So I'd say if you're looking just to start out, don't be too concerned about the accuracy of the rifle. Most of them they're definitely a lot better than a beginner, and I'd still say that a lot of them are actually better than some of the top end shooters. As I said, the main thing you're paying for is getting the adjustments, maybe a slightly upgraded mechanism, possibly the materials. It's also must be noted that sometimes people just don't like the certain feel of particular makes, and they may even decide to go for a cheaper one because they just like the way part of it feels. So don't think you've got to go for the most expensive if you aren't the best. You've just got to choose what works for you. And again, like the aiming devices, if there's people at the shooting club with some different ones, see if they will let you maybe try a few, so that you get an idea of what you like, what you don't like. That's always worth doing. I'm just trying to think. There was another thing that I was going to mention about rifles, which was that another feature you possibly want to look for is where it has a dry fire mechanism. On this one, there's a little switch here on the side which changes it between live firing when you're using pellets and dry firing so that it doesn't put any air through it. And dry firing is useful as it means you can then do training at home where maybe you can't actually fire any pellets safely, or you think that the bangs will disturb the neighbours. So that's a feature you may want to look for. Again, maybe some of the cheaper ones might not have that. So you just got to look through, see which features you want, what's useful to you, before you actually decide. But hopefully that's given you a good idea of the layout of a rifle and the features that are useful. As I said, it is target air rifle. You will find some air rifles which aren't aimed at the target air rifle sport, and you probably want to avoid those. Try and find one that's aimed for target air rifle shooting. Yes, thank you for watching. I hope this has given you a lot of useful information. As I said, in a future video I'm going to explain some of the positions, the disciplines of the types of shooting you can do, and in those I will discuss some of the equipment that is needed specifically for those positions. So thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, like the video, and if you like the channel, then maybe subscribe so you can be notified of future videos. So thank you for watching, stay safe, and thank you, and goodbye.